Good morning. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter, your consciousness transformation ascension guide, originator of Trinity Energy Progression, bringing you this week's Living the Shift, which was interesting because funny that I put up that topic this morning, which I knew I was going to do last night. I knew I was going to do it last night, but actually I knew I was yeah, I didn't. I knew I was going to do it last night, and then this morning I posted it and I was going about my business, doing my meditation, my morning meditation, and then we lost power, which I thought was so funny because it's just raining here. But what's interesting is I keep on making these comments like it's it's funny how everyone's getting so lost in the chaos of the chaos, right? They're getting lost in the drama around the chaos, right? Of like, wow, look at like Texas. Good morning, Gloria. Look at like Texas this week, right? They got a couple inches of snow and they've had sub-zero temperatures and like they such like political chaos has come to the surface, and it has just totally broken down an infrastructure that they thought was there, but apparently had a whole bunch of stuff in the shady background that was just not getting tended to, not getting updated, and all that kind of stuff. And so that, guess what? That was pushed to the surface, right? And the way that it had to be done, obviously at a collective level, was look at how many people are without power. They were doing rolling blackouts, people being found dead in their homes. I had a text that was sent to me right before I got on of this house in Houston that had a big hole in the ceiling and water had frozen falling down, so there was like a frozen waterfall in a house. Craziness, right? And then it was, put your pipes on, like put your pipes on, put your faucets on drip, right? Which we all know, who any of us who's ever lived in a place that, things go in sub-zero on a regular basis, which I did when I lived in upstate New York. It was like turn your faucet on to drip so that your pipes don't freeze. Well, now they're like, well, now the water, because so many people are doing that, our water's really low, and so now you can't put your pipes on. So now it's just craziness, right? So everybody's like looking at, well, what's the deal with Texas, right? But it's not just what's the deal with Texas. I mean, look at what's gone on for the last several years. It seems to be this growing crescendo, right? The West and the wildfires, right, in the United States. But then look at Australia. I think Australia is going through a whole bunch of wildfires now too, and everything seems to be, here's the word of the century, unprecedented, right? I started gritting my teeth every time I heard that term because I'm like, ugh, it's just totally lost its meaning, right? Because I mean, you hear it, the news, people are talking about, oh, that's just unprecedented. Oh, that's just unprecedented. So here's the thing. Yes, it is. And guess what? It's time for us to realize that we have pushed ourselves to the point collectively that we have to shake things loose because we have ignored them for so long. When you look at it from a spiritual perspective, from a consciousness perspective, that's where, that's really what it points to. And I was laughing because, like, here in North Carolina, like North Carolina, where I am, central North Carolina, and down to, like, say, Florida, it seems like we've been excused this year from all the crazy snow because the whole country has had Arctic temperatures and lots of snow and all this kind of stuff. And we've just had, but here in North Carolina, we have had rain and rain and more rain. And I'm not kidding you when I'm telling you that it feels like 80 to 90% of the time it's raining out. I can probably count the number of days we've had sun this winter, and it's really bizarre, right? So here's our bizarreness. Is I'm like going, okay, so at some point, when does everything in the state just start washing away because we've had so much precipitation? And so, and then people say, okay, yeah, and we have hurricanes that are getting bigger and more powerful and crazier. And then we're having like weird, unprecedented things all the time. Like that's become the catchphrase. Oh, this is unprecedented. This is unprecedented. Whether it's the political stuff or it is literally the weather, because it's almost like we're saying, okay, well, we obviously found a way to just keep on pointing fingers at each other instead of looking in the mirror ourselves. So now we're going to take it beyond the people and beyond the face, and we're going to have to just create it as weather. or a natural, what we call natural disasters. So, you know, which is interesting because we have, and I'm gonna talk about this for like 2 minutes, just 2 minutes here, because it just interrelates with everything. So on my other podcast, Ascended World, and the website that I've created with my colleague and very close friend Sarah C. Gavignoni, we have done this month. We launched a program called 28 Days of Forgiveness, and many people think of forgiveness as simply things like I was abused or I was angry at somebody, or all that kind of stuff. But this is like really deep level forgiveness that we've been dealing with, and it's a great tool. And we're leaving the program up. It's self-paced. It's all got recordings. We do have live discussions on a forum that's on the site. But here's the point on this is that the first day one, the first week is all about the world and the collective. And the first day is about disasters. And we talk about, and so every day we have like a 10 to 15 minute video that we alternate and talk about like the higher perspective of each of these areas. And so, the funny thing is, at the end of the day, yes, it's not about others, it's about us. But the thing is that it is about us because all others are us, right? So it's this back and forth thing, right? And so in the forgiveness program, the first day was disasters. And I'll tell you what, there's so much that comes up about what we have done that we ignore. So we have come to a place collectively where we said it is time for us to wake up, get it together, move forward, be complete with this set of lessons. And we're just going to stay persistent on this until we really can't do anything else, right? And so that's my understanding. And that's what we do. That's what we do when we look at consciousness and energy. It's like this. The perception of us being this concentric piece of the whole of whether you want to call it God or the universe or the quantum field, it's all the same. Doesn't matter how you want to look at it. But we are all, when we come to that realization, a remembrance that we are actually a small fractal piece that we've created to have this experience of separation, and that when we transcend that fractal piece and remember the wholeness, that we are part of the whole, and that everything around us is what we've created. It's our creation. It's not something that's out of our control. It's something that we have created as the quantum field, as God, as source, as the universe, as whatever. And for the purpose of having these experiences in separation. So here on Earth, we've had this really dense separation-based experience that has just been this exaltation of separation and density and exclusion. And now it's like time to complete this set of lessons, right? So when we in completing the set of lessons is to remember, while we're this piece of our consciousness that's here in our bodies, we remember that we're more than this, that we start remembering all that connection, we start remembering all that wholeness, then we realize that everything around us is simply a reflection of what's inside of us. So the fractal, as if you've ever seen a fractal is the same as the whole. It's just it's like a little representation that's exactly the same as the whole. It's just a representation. So that's the really cool part about it. But funny that I've never used that term before, it just came out of my mouth this morning. And that makes so much sense. So much sense. Wow. Anyway, so I want to get to the point. And so when we see that and realize that it's all just a reflection of us, then we realize that everything is just a little ping, a little reminder of things for us to remember, right? And so we set ourselves up for this individually and collectively. And we don't ever have, just my understanding is, we don't ever just have a plan A. We have, not just plan A, B, and C, but we have plans up to, whatever, quadruple X, quadruple Y, quadruple Z, and beyond that, because it's like, okay, so if I don't hear the whisper, if I don't hear the little nudge, then it's got to be a whisper. And if I don't hear the whisper, it's got to be, louder. And if I don't hear that, it's got to be a shout. And if I don't hear if I ignore the shout, then it, keeps on getting louder until then it becomes community wide, because we're like the fractals of the whole. community wide, well, then we're just going to spread it around through us. And then it's going to become more collective and more, say, nationwide and more earthwide until we finally look in the mirror and say, this is what there is for me to shift so we can move beyond this. And we have, and so many ask, well, how could that be? Why would we ignore something like that? Why would it be so hard or challenging for somebody? And really the answer is, it's not that it's hard, it's that the ego really has identified with certain things and doesn't like looking at other things. And part of the love of this experience is the exclusion of the ego. And that means that includes the suffering, that includes the anger and fear and pain and all of that stuff, because we don't feel it in wholeness, because there is no such thing. And all those energies are simply the illusion of separation. So we've enjoyed indulging ourselves in it. We've enjoyed indulging ourselves into the depth of density and exclusion and separation, and we're sort of addicted to it. That's where the addiction to drama comes, right? Oh, well, look at that, and oh, that's horrible, but we can't look away, right? So what happens is, because we've become addicted to it, and in this backwards world, because it's a mirror of what's inside, and mirrors are the opposite of what's inside, we think we have to suffer. We think that the only thing that gets our attention is pain. Not we think, but we tend to allow the only thing to get our attention is pain, sickness, exclusion, lack of all kinds. And so our higher self says, okay, well, we can commit to listening to ourselves, to shifting what it is that we hold in separation through the ego, right? Not judgment. I'm not judging that. It is simply saying we're done with all this set of lessons, and it's really holding us in this space of stasis that's preventing us from evolving into what we want to evolve to next, in terms of the whole experience and the bigger project. And that's a discussion for a different day, because Earth is a small piece of a much bigger project, right? That's my understanding. Multiversal. So it's time for us to move to the next phase, and we are stuck in the stasis of this density that we love so much, right? And so we committed to breaking free of it, and we knew that we know that we are that addicted to it. Those of us who have, decided to come here and manage it. So manage the project, what I call the Earth Project, right? So be the managers of the Earth Project, and so the higher self is going, okay, or the expanded consciousness. Let's just say the expanded consciousness is saying, okay, well, guess what? We gave ourselves deadlines. We gave ourselves these sort of checkpoints of saying, okay, to get to this, it's for us to get to this and to accept and let go of these things by this date, by this time, by this period or whatever, by this checkpoint, whatever that is. Okay, because time is an illusion as well, but just for the sake of the mind grasping this, we can say at this certain time. And then once we hit that, then it's for us to let go. It's sort of like we decided we would do it in waves and in steps and phases. And so it's like, okay, so we got through this phase, and now it's time for us to move on to the next. And yet we love each phase. It's like, oh, but then I got to let go of this, and I got to let go of this. And we think that's funny, and people say, oh, we would never do that. We do it all the time. So we identify with sickness, we identify with suffering, we identify with martyrdom and pain and sacrifice and limitation. And so the expanded consciousness says, okay, well, if we're not listening at the whisper and the ping and the individual challenges and say even the injuries or the sickness and whatever, okay, because you love the sickness so much, okay, well, we're going to get bigger. Okay, well, what? Let's present ourselves with what looks like a sickness that's covering through everyone, right? And what's interesting is, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, when I talked about what came up was we were talking about how energy is like in energetic terms, right? The chest, right, and breathing. So like acupuncturists and people who work with energy field, like the way energy flows through the body, like acupuncturists, thousands of years in practice, they look at any like bronchitis and pneumonia and whatever as actually depression or grief. And here's the thing. So we've had now, and I said, oh, wow, I've never looked at that before when I was doing that particular podcast. And I was like, wow, I've never looked at that before, because what is COVID? COVID is this thing that affects heavily our lungs. So collectively, what does that mean about us being sad? Well, guess what? It just hit me. Yeah, we're sad about moving to the next level, to the next phase, because we're having to let go of all this other stuff. So it's our grief, it's our grieving, of letting it go. Oh, yeah, I can feel that through my whole body. Yep, absolutely. And so and now we're like, okay, so now what? Well, no, let's just delve ourselves into the drama around the presence of this chest-based illness, this breathing-based illness, this illness that represents us collectively at the in grieving. And we're gonna overlook that. We're going to just delve ourselves into that drama. Okay, well, if we're going to do that, well, then the next plan is we're going to start doing natural disasters one after the other, until until we become so present that we stop getting distracted. And people think, well, and many of us think, well, how does that keep us from getting distracted? Well, when you take away everything and all you're concerned with is, say, like getting into a place where you're at a physical comfort level, all you can do is be present with right now. So, when we're dealing with, I was talking with Sarah yesterday, when we're dealing with death, you're in a present, you deal with it being in the present and every moment. When you're dealing with massive change, all you can do is be present in the present moment. And the key for us in this evolution, and we talk about, well, what's the next step in spiritual consciousness? The next step is presence. It's not helping 5 million others. It's helping ourselves come to this presence in this place, that no matter what is going on around you, you can continue to stay centered and present. This morning, anyway, going back to where I started this morning, so I was laughing because I had been saying, oh yeah, well, at some point North Carolina's going to wash away because we've had so much flipping rain. It's crazy. This past like year, and it seems to get worse instead of better. There's no like, oh well, we'll wait till the next season, and then it just continues to rain and continues to rain. Anyway, and so this morning I was doing my morning meditation, and all of a sudden the electricity went out. Not because it was freezing rain or snow or anything like that. It was raining. Electricity went out. And I could sense it because, well, I had music on and everything went off, and you just can tell when everything just goes silent. And I did nothing. I continued in my meditation. And so I finished what I was doing, and I came back and asked, is there anything for me to do? And I got just to report the thing. I got on my phone and just did the reporting in. And checked in, and there were like 2,000 people in my area, 2,500 or something like that were out of power from rain, which is because everything's washing away in North Carolina. And then I even got subsequently a notice from my internet service provider saying, oh, the internet's out in your area too. And I was like, wow. So I put my phone down, everything's reported, there's nothing else for me to do, so now I'm just going to be. And what did I do? I'm like, okay, well, I thought that was ironic that I was coming on to talk about this today, that this was the topic I was guided or pinged to discuss. And then I was like, yeah, I know that it's going to be back on before I go on, because it'll just be great illustration, which is what a lot of these things tend to be. Great illustration as a reminder. And so what's funny is at like 9:15, the electricity went on. And at like 9:20, we got our internet back. Which is so funny and awesome, right? Thank you for all coming back together so that I can get on the air here, which I was planning on just going to do on the phone anyway. But it was just a funny illustration on that. And it didn't have to be connected to anything. So it's like everything that, and then we see bizarre stuff. I'm like, I was shocked at something earlier this week, and I thought I was beyond getting shocked about something, right? And so there's like shocking things in politics. There's shocking things going on in institutional levels. There's shocking things going on at natural disaster levels, and it's so important to come to this place of acceptance. And that's where I feel like I was sort of referring to the 28 Days of Forgiveness program that Sarah and I are doing over on Ascended World, that I feel like that has been such a huge, wonderful prep for all of this because we're already forgiving. And in the forgiveness, as I've spoken about last week, but this is so important. And I'm going to repeat myself here. And Sarah and I talk about it on Monday. And it's not just because I'm plugging the program, but it's really because it is touching everything I do. It touches everything I see and everything I experience. And I am so excited that we were guided to do that right now and offer this because it's so perfect in helping the presence. Because the forgiveness is not just forgiveness, it's a whole circle of wholeness and completion because we apologize as well as forgive because we're a part of that creation. We've created it. And guess what? We've ignored or chosen to ignore the messages to get to this collective level. So there's something else for us to apologize for because, okay, well, did it. And all apology and forgiveness, by the way, is to the ego, is to and by the ego, because there's this feeling of fault or resentment or whatever, blame, judgment. But it's to appease the ego, to have the ego realize that it's all perfect and part of the bigger game, and to let the ego step back and just assimilate as part of the whole so we can be in separation and in the whole at the same time. So anyway, so in the forgiveness, it's not just forgiveness, it's apology for, it's forgiving, so it's on both ends. And then not only that, but then it's accepting, nourishing, loving, and having gratitude for. Thank you for that set of lessons so that we could finally get the message before we, go even, get even more crazy, right? Except, we continue to do that. But the thing is, the more we do that in all these different areas, from the collective down to others, to relationships, and to ourselves, it is so important for us to get all that ego out of the way because then guess what? It releases our addiction to the drama at all of those levels. So that's what there is for us to do. It's for us to go inside and come to acceptance of all of this and recognition and completion and wholeness and singularity. And so, and if we don't, and here's the funny thing, we just keep on, instead, what we have been doing is we just stop at the addiction to the drama around the big collective, whatever, catalytic events that we're creating. And then we just say, oh, well, that's just unbelievable. And okay, let's just get past this. I just want to go back to normal, right? Which there is no normal. And then we get to the next thing. And we get to the next thing. And we get to the next thing. And so we're getting to the place. And so, like I said, there was something that shocked me earlier this week. And then I said, I just don't even know why I get shocked at anything anymore, because that's where we are, is at that place of pushing ourselves to a place where anything can be accepted as part of the whole, to have apology for it, to forgive it, to accept it as part of the set of lessons we chose, to love it and nourish it, embrace it, and then have gratitude for it, to say, oh, well, I'm glad that, it's there so that I can choose to take that lesson and then I don't have to have this at any more extreme levels. So let's do that, shall we? Please. It's a lot to process. And so the funny thing is, this is coming in so clearly just because we did this program, right? So this 28 Days of Forgiveness, we have it out there. So you go over to Ascended World, you go over to the Ascended World page on Facebook, or you go to our ascendedworld.net internet website, and then you go to programs and it says 28 Days of Forgiveness. It gives you all the information. And right now, until like March 1st, we have it for $28 for 28 days. And it is worth $2,800. I mean, it's an amazing, incredible program. And I'm not saying that just because we're doing it. But like, we didn't even realize how incredible it was until we actually put it together. And we are doing it as participants ourselves too. But anyway, so like until March 1st, it's going to be out there for like $28 for the 28 days. And it doesn't matter that it's, the middle of February, because it's just you do one a day for 28 days or at your own pace. And you have a workbook and you have clearings that we do in a 10 to 15-minute video every day. And then we have a discussion board. So all of this for $28, and decades of experience between Sarah and I. But it's just so incredible because we're just peeling through all these levels. And so and the reason, like I said, it's also interrelated, and it's incredible how we've realized how interrelated it is, because look at what's going on. Good morning, Karen. Look at what's going on at the collective levels. We just have so much. And so it's just going to keep on being crazy, as Sarah would say, crazy. But, and it's, or the unprecedented word, right? Which, like I said, I'm ready to throw out because I'm tired of hearing it. It's so overused right now. But that's the point. The point is, yes, we are going to continue to create unprecedented things until we get the message to look inside, to complete all of this, to let it go, to let go of our attachment to it, our resentment, our anger, all that kind of stuff at ourselves as well as what's out there, knowing deep down that we're part of that creation. And so, really, the first step is turning inside. And we've been saying this. I've been saying this for, I don't know, for years, because I've been doing this professionally for over a decade now. And Sarah and I have been saying it together on Ascended World every Monday morning. And it sounds like a broken record, but the real key, it's not how many shinies you know how to use. It's not how you manage and control everything around you. It is all about coming to a place of being centered and present within yourself, in acceptance and unconditional love, to say, yes, I created that. Look at what I created. I see its part in the whole thing. I apologize for it, to the ego for it. I forgive myself for it. I forgive the whatever for it being there. And I come into acceptance and embrace and love. And it is so, and have such gratitude for being able to see it now, and having to, getting to see it now, instead of having to wait to see it till later on. And even later on, you can still do the same thing. We always give ourselves the door to shift in a moment's notice. We can shift all these layers of unprecedented times. We can shift all of this stuff just by simply letting go of our addiction to the drama, our persistence in separation and exclusion, our addiction to externalization and victimhood, and stuff like that. And part of that, and I'm not saying any of that with judgment, it's all about coming back inside, accepting that we are part of creation, we are part of the creator as creation, and we are responsible for what we've created. And when we do that, and we come to, again, the apology and forgiveness and the love and embracing whatever, and we move on, then this stuff can stop having to shake the foundation of everything. Although, quite honestly, because we have so much that doesn't serve us, I feel like this is also another way for us, because we've been so addicted to holding on to that we're sort of doing the Tower card in the tarot deck, which is letting everything crumble that doesn't serve us. And so we've had such a death grip. Like, I see ourselves just holding on so hard. And so we are really just sort of exploding it out from under us. So what better thing to do than stay centered, stay connected in guidance, and, totally commit to that inner work. Commit to not only, I don't even want to call it work, to inner commitment, to inner listening, to inner presence, to knowing that centeredness and presence is really the key to everything, because that's where you get your clearest guidance, where your and our expanded consciousness is there, knowing and remembering the whole picture. And all we gotta have to do in that centered presence is tap in as that wholeness, and we see it. That's what visioning is. That's what having visions is. is being able to easily go into the bigger picture, see the whole thing in a snapshot, because outside of space and time, it is a snapshot. So, love to everyone who's having a really challenging time right now because of whatever has manifested. Because, like I said, there is just so many different. Yeah, we had a weird thing even here. Like, like besides the rain, we had tornadoes in North Carolina a couple days ago in February. Unprecedented. But that's the whole thing. We're just going to continue doing that, and we're going to continue. We're going to continue doing that because we do have huge pieces and chunks of things that is important for us to now allow to crumble away, because we've held it up for so long and we've made towers of band-aids, band-aid upon band-aid upon band-aid. Now we've just got to let all the towers fall, to create that fresh, pure, authentic creation of the next step of evolution, or what we're choosing to create in this multiverse as part of the bigger project. So look at that this week. Commit yourself to that inner work. If you're not doing daily meditations, please do that. As I say a bajillion times, I'll say it till I turn blue in the face. Meditating and finding a way to shut down all the chatter in your mind to get to that center, to get to your inner guidance, is the core to anything. You can access any frequency, any shiny, any like, practice anything by getting to that. And so, a great thing, you want to come and join us on the 28 Days of Forgiveness, do. It's $28, like $28. You spend more than that, like on, Netflix and Hulu every month. So, and this is like really, it's truly a deep and life changing thing. Yeah, Sarah says, remember the phrase, know thyself. Exactly. Exactly. That's really the important part here. And knowing thyself is remembering that we are the ones that create this, that we are all one. We're a part of the wholeness. This is all a part of us just as much as we're a part of it. And that if we shift ourselves, it shifts everything around us. And it shifts the experience of everything around us. So, yeah, so any of those things. So you come join us on the 28 Days of Forgiveness. Like I said, you go over to the Ascended World and you'll see the thing there. But you can also go to ascendedworld.net and under programs, 28 Days of Forgiveness, and sign up before the 28th, and it's $28. After that, it's, I think, going to be 128, which is still really cheap because it's worth, like I said, like 2,800 really, for the levels and multiple levels that it hits. But however you want it, and that's just one of many suggestions. So commit to that this week. That's how we shift this. That's how we change all of this, is we change ourselves. We come into that greater part of who we are and what we are. So thank you for joining me. Have a great week. Hope everybody stays warm, comfortable, dry, with power, with food. Lots of love, because we are all of the same. And let's get beyond this, shall we? We'll see you next time. Thank you. This is Angela Coulter signing off with this week's Living the Shift. Have a great one.